Hope you've been doing alright. Thanks for checking in on another video. I have another free Helix preset for you today, and this is going to be based around a slide tone that I've been using for quite a while now while I've been practicing and learning more about slide. I figure I might as well make use of my time on this ship and learn something productive. But I've called it the SlideRig preset, and that's because I've kind of based the compression around this pedal that I've got. It's a great pedal by Origin Effects, and actually my device is the HX Stomp. So I use the HX Stomp in combination with a much larger rig, maybe not much larger, it's still pretty compact because I'm on a fly gig. But I use the HX Stomp in combination with a lot of other pedals, but in this preset I wanted to make it kind of an all-in-one for your slide tone. So we've got two compression blocks, we've got an EQ block, and then obviously your amp and cabinet. So I use the HX Stomp as a kind of set and forget amp modeling system. You can throw some other effects in there if you want on your own, but what this preset is basically just a starting platform for creating your own slide preset. So we'll jump over to HX Edit and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Looking at HX Edit, you're going to notice that I have three effects here in a parallel path with a dry pass-through tone before it hits the amplifier. I'll explain all of this in a second, but I do have to say, if you're not using an effects loop, obviously get rid of that because you won't be getting any sound out of this preset if you have the effects loop in there and nothing plugged in. Or if you don't want to get into HX Edit and remove it, then you can just attach a normal patch cable from the output of the effects loop back into the input. And then the volume block, if you don't use a volume pedal, delete that and you can put your own effects in there. But this is just basically a very basic starting platform for building your own presets upon. Like I mentioned earlier, I combine the HX Stomp with external effect pedals for my rig. But if you're someone that uses the full Helix, Helix LT, or the rack, then you can start adding in many of the normal Helix effects that you already like to use and that you've already dialed up yourself. And this is just basically a bass amp tone for everything to work around. Alright, so let's start. I always mention that you got to set your correct input impedance setting. This is really important to get the right sound going in. I go with 1M for this guitar, but trust your ear and figure out what works best for you. And then we've got obviously the split path here. We'll talk about that in a second. The B level is the affected ones here. And let's look at the amp and the cabinet block. So we've got the divided by 13 amp head. Here's all the controls for it. You'll see some footswitch stuff over here. And then the cabinet here, which is actually the Dr. Z 2x12 model cabinet with a U87 model condenser microphone. And you'll see footswitch 3 over here controlling the level. Let's start by just explaining what the overall premise of this is basically assigned to footswitch 1, we've got the slide. This is the slide mode footswitch. So just as it comes stock, the settings you're seeing right now, it's idealized to make the most of just a pick and fingers tone, no slide needed. So this is your basic rhythm tone. Just like a pretty much clean, there's a little bit of overdrive in there, but a pretty clean basic rhythm tone. And then as you hit footswitch 2, you're going to be adding in some more overdrive. You've seen drive 1, drive 2 go up, and the channel volume come down a little bit to compensate, so it's the same volume as the cleaner setting. And then that's back to our clean setting. So footswitch 2 is going to be more or less overdrive depending on what you're going for, what the sound is you're going for. Footswitch 3, you're going to see some controls here. I think I've just mainly got it on the level. Footswitch 3 is going to be for a solo boost. And also I'm controlling the presence in the amp head block also. So hitting footswitch 3 is going to change the presence and the level in the cabinet. So we've boosted that. You can see all this here. This is easiest to look at it from 0 to 4.5 decibels. It's giving you in total around something like a 6 decibel boost, it sounds like, because we're adding in some presence here and we're changing some different parameters as well. And so this is just to pop out a little bit for the solos. And then finally, footswitch 1, this is going to be where we're switching between our finger tone and our slide tone. So footswitch 1 is going to, most importantly, change the balance here. Right, so the A level is the dry pass-through that we're using mainly for our fingers rhythm tone. When we hit footswitch 1, it's changing the A level down to -10 decibels. and it's bringing up B level from 5, or negative 5 decibels I should say, to 0. So most of our sound is coming from this secondary path now with the compression and the EQ, and as well I've assigned the EQ to bypass with footswitch 1, and that just gives us an aesthetic for the HX Stomp. It gives us the yellow color ring as opposed to just a white color. That's the only reason I've assigned the bypass here. But let's look at the compression here. Now these dual compression blocks, I'm using 2 different compressors. So the first one just kind of gets rid of the peaks, and then the second one is where we're getting a lot of sustain that we want with a slide tone for. And this is something that slide players have been doing forever. It's basically slide 101, getting a nice compressed, smooth sound for your slide. And I kind of modeled it around the Origin Effects SlideRig Mark II that's on my board. I use this slide preset a lot, but I also use my compressor pedal, the outboard compressor, with my Super preset that you've seen in some videos before. And that's my main sound. But I use both of these equally, I think, for different slide tones. But basically what we've got here is the first compressor that we're using to tame some of the peaks that you get from the slide tone. And I'll give you a demo of all this in a second. And then the second one's adding all your sustain. There's the settings for that. And then the EQ is doing some manipulation to positively affect the tone that you're getting out of the slide. It gets rid of some of the high-end stuff, some of the squeaking when you go back and forth over the strings that we don't like. It just gives you a much more rounded tone. So one more time, let's just play the dry tone, the rhythm tone, and then we'll switch into slide mode. And with more overdrive. Bridge pickup, by the way. Let's hit slide mode. I'm using a glass slide here. I'll switch to a metal one in a bit too. And I'm going to switch, let's stay on the bridge pickup. We're in slide mode now, so I hit footswitch 1. Let's go to the neck. Let's hit footswitch 2 now and add in some more overdrive for the slide tone. And that was on the neck pickup still. Let's hear with the bridge. So that's my bass slide tone. Let's switch back to the neck pickup here, and we're going to clean up. So we're on the first option again, the first sound that you heard, less overdrive. And I'm going to play with a chrome slide so we can see how this sounds a little bit different than the glass. I've actually been preferring these lately. It's a little bit harder to play with because they're heavier, but I think I like the sound better than glass. So there's my creative slide preset. It took me a while to figure out how to make the preset work for both playing with fingers and with the slide. So hopefully it's useful to you. Hopefully you can use either exactly how I have it, or you can use it to kind of build your own preset around with different effects in your larger Helix device. So just before we finish up here, we're going to jump over to this screen, and this is where all the nitty-gritty stuff is and where you can find how all my parameter changes are working with the foot switches. So let's look at foot switch 3 here with the level. There's your control. This relates to the solo boost, of course. Bias, foot switch 1. This is changing so that we get a more ideal sound for slide when we hit foot switch 1. So the minimum setting, in other words, is your clean sound, like you're playing with your fingers, and then maximum setting is when we've switched to slide. Channel volume changes for foot switch 2, so we can maintain the same volume between our overdriven sound and our cleaner sound. This goes along with drive 1 and drive 2. where the minimum setting is the cleaner sound, obviously. Maximum setting is the heavier gain. Cut is assigned to foot switch 1, so minimum, again, minimum cut is for when we're playing with our fingers, maximum cut is with the slide. Presence is with foot switch 3 for the solo boost. Tone of the amp is foot switch 1, switching between slide and fingers, other way around, sorry, fingers on minimum, slide on maximum. A level, this is the most important one probably. B level again is the one with the effects. A level is the direct signal. Bypass with foot switch 1 for the EQ block here, and then this is just pertains to the volume block that not everyone uses. Thanks for checking out the video. I hope it was interesting to you. I know it was pretty in-depth with all the parameter changes we're doing, but hopefully it was easy enough to understand, and maybe you enjoyed the video enough to maybe check out some of the other videos I got on my channel. A ton of free Helix presets always, and if you're interested, instead of stealing the settings from the screen, if you'd rather have a .hlx file download of everything, there's information in the description on that. Basically, it's a donation of $5 or whatever you feel my package is worth, and you get instant access and actually an unlimited lifetime access to my ever-expanding preset library. It's basically a Google Drive folder. So anyway, information is in the description on that, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.